Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about two competing opinions that I've seen about AI, and specifically about software development, software apps. Infamous venture capitalist Chris Sacca versus startup founder Justin Jackson from Transistor.fm. And I think they're both talking about two very important things. There's the sort of like extreme limit of, where AI might decimate a whole tech sector of our space.
And now they see that their life's work is obviated by a machine that's just better than them this fucking fast and costs $20 a month.
And then there's the more romantic side of software building and product building that I think Justin Jackson leans to.
But it hasn't replaced these actual SaaS web applications or mobile applications that require some finesse. These need to be performant. They need to be reliable. They can't have bugs. They can't have weird user experience quiggles,
There's only a few years that we can sort of anticipate and theorize and futurecast with AI. I think Chris Sacca is right in terms of thinking ahead. Like, you can only think ahead in single years at this point. Now, back to the world of software and creating apps. I've created just what I call utility apps, mini apps, two things that have solved something of a pain point for me. One is an RSS aggregator that helps me bring WordPress news into one central dashboard. It summarizes it, it makes social media posts for me, and I can use that and iterate on it the way I want. I also created another app called Podcast Downloader, which allows me to quickly search for a podcast that I want to download and bring to, the editorial stuff that I do, covering the news, covering other podcasts, creating snippets of content from other shows. I just wanted something that I could quickly search for that podcast episode and download it to my desktop. And where these two worlds collide of Justin Jackson versus Chris Sacca is somewhere in the middle, right? I think when we look at Chris Sacca's world, I think there's this whole bottom ground that gets eaten up. In the case of the two apps that I created, well, I'm not looking for a RSS reader anymore. I'm not looking for a podcast app in Apple App Store to download podcast episodes. I'm just turning to my AI agent and I'm saying, build this piece of software for me and let me run and execute against it. And if I get some cool features I want to build, I can do that. In Justin Jackson's world, he's analyzing it much more from that product owner and that product owner's perspective of somebody who's worked hard to, build a business in software. And he's saying, well, if we start shipping all this product, we're going to have buggy code. It's not built by a human. There's not a lot of human attention or experience built into the software. And I agree with that, but I also feel like the world might trend towards more of what I'm doing, where I have a need, no one else is solving it, or somebody's solving it at something that is unattainable to me, or with too many features. So if there was an RSS reader that did focus on WordPress news, but they wanted $50 a month, I would look at that and go, nope, I don't want to spend $600 a year, and I can just build it myself. Or if it's like overly complex, because there are a bunch of RSS reader apps that are out there, there's just too much choice, or it does too many things inside that app, well, I can just build my own and make it hyper-focused. But that also means if I do find one that really fills the gap, or if I'm looking for something that is mission critical, let's talk about podcast hosting as an example with Justin Jackson. I could go to Replit today and build a podcast hosting company. This is very easy tech. I also worked at a podcast hosting company, so I kind of know the ins and outs of it. And the core nature of hosting media files through an RSS feed and having an interface to upload them and attach them to an RSS feed wouldn't be something too difficult at a singular user scale. Obviously, it's much different at a scale of Transistor. But then as soon as I start looking for features like stats, multiple podcasts, new integrations, or I simply don't want to be taxed with the idea of thinking of new features, well, that's what Transistor exists for, right? That's what RSS.com exists for. And I can say, I will vote with my $100 to $200 a year and pay this company to do this good software. So let's sum it up with what the future might look like for apps. There could be a world where in a short few years from now, where you simply say, hey, Siri, build me this to-do app that allows me to upload pictures of my family. And whenever I upload a picture of my family, it says anything in that photo are things I need to be reminded about to pick up from the store, right? Like you could build a to-do app that does that. And what Apple will do, instead of you going to the App Store and Apple taking 30% of a to-do app that they're selling, is you'll just pay $9 a month, or it'll be part of the family share plan with Apple's intelligence, and it'll just code the app for you, and it'll just exist on your phone. And that app is just built by, well, is it Swift or Go? I forget what it is that Apple has for the coding language in the back end. And you'll just say, build me this app, and you won't go to the App Store anymore. And that'll be the major shift. And what we'll see is a shrinking of apps in the App Store. The premium ones will exist. Prices might actually go up for these premium apps because there's less volume coming in. So I think that's the world we might trend to where, okay, the entire engineering staff might not be wiped off the face of the earth just yet with AI. But again, only thinking in single years at this point. But also, you know, the desire, the romance around having a great solid product, a niche market, small but mighty business can or could be in jeopardy, at least in the software world, when you can build these little micro apps that serve a purpose. It's been a while since I've done 10 minutes without taking a breath, reading off a script. You're watching this on the Matt Report channel. Go and check out the videos I have on the WP Minute if you want to stay up in the WordPress news, the WPMinute.com/subscribe. That's the #1 way to stay connected. Listen to all the podcasts. My podcast of WordPress entrepreneurs that I interviewed, your typical 30 to 45 minutes. Eric Karkovac hosts the WP Minute, which is your twice monthly dose of WordPress for freelancers, around 5 minutes per episode. If you're into other content management systems, I have a new podcast coming over at cmsminute.com. You can subscribe there if you want to know about the wide range of content management systems coming out that are not just WordPress. Check that out at cmsminute.com. The podcast setup.com if you want to stay up to date with what I think about podcasts. Thanks for watching on the Matt Report channel. We'll see you in the next video.